So Jared is the media supervisor at TBC. Welcome, Jared. Do you want to use this one or?
This one. I'm not as venturous as Gina. I'm going to stand by the podium because I tend to move side to side while I talk. My name is Jared Silverman. I am a media supervisor at TBC. And TBC is a full-service advertising agency located in Baltimore, Maryland. We work with a variety of clients, and it's so funny that the topic has been often about established or legacy, as we've chosen to be a non-word, because it's much like similar that many agencies that start as full service also have this linear devotion or legacy to them, and they need to figure out how to incorporate it or adjust with it in a digital-first world. And it's been very interesting working with a lot of brands that we service with all of our different services across creative production, PR, et cetera. And we have this sort of confrontation of, should we be investing more in digital? Should we still be investing in linear? And I think it was an interesting debate that was started yesterday with Jill as well as Lisa, where there was one point where an established brand actually said, we went digital first. And the other brand said, linear is still very much a factor. And even it continued on today with, okay, great, but we just can't give up the volume that linear provides. And that's what we found too. But is it all about volume or is it about the right volume? And that's something we were challenged to do with one of our clients. And if you thought pharma was sexy, that's right. Let's talk about care services vertical. Very important profession. And it is, right? I mean, I have to tell you, I've lost all 4 of my grandparents in the past 10 years, and one of the great things that I admired was people caring for them, and those people that did that, the amazing amount of time and devotion it takes, it's really important. I'm actually one of those people that believes we're not just serving ads to people, we're actually connecting people with companies and products for what they need. That's one of the great things about our industry. It's constantly evolving in that direction all the time, and you don't have a good campaign if you can't do that successfully. So in this particular case, in the care services vertical, I'm gonna assume that button, yes it does. Great. TBC manages both brand as well as recruitment for both those in need of care and those they employ. And it's a really big challenge because even in this economy, we're actually faced with this interesting dilemma of we can't find the right people to service these jobs, even though there's tons of jobs open. And this is before we even use the big R word, although I can say it because it's already been broken so far this summit. But it's been interesting. And our client in this case struggles with the fact there's high competition for the available care workers that exist. And they need a great sum of them because they're franchisees as well as all their locations are constantly expanding. That's a big challenge, right? How do you reach these people? How do you break through the noise of all these different competitors? I find that a challenge, and we all know every industry has certain competition, but it's one that actually has this low amount of volunteers willing to go into that field, and then at the same time, a significant amount of competitors rising, whether it be startup mom and pop shops, corporations. It's a lot to deal with, and they're one of the leaders in their field. So how do we reach those people? What do we do? Well, we do run, of course, that's the big word that I used before, linear. We did use it, and we have been using Facebook as well. Facebook actually turns to be one of our largest lead generating platforms. And I know we've talked a lot about other social platforms that are out there. Similar to the argument about linear, Meta isn't going anywhere anytime soon, even though we like it to in some cases. But it is still one of the best platforms, especially for on-lead driven actions. What's interesting too is that historically we found with this client when we sort of took over the account from the previous agency, there was a large focus on massive reach, which is really interesting because we've had this conversation over and over again over the past 2 days. Does that make sense? Is that the right way to use your TV media? Yes, we know that the audience is there, but is it the right way to reach that audience? Then our clients recently, a couple months ago, threw us for a loop and said, we need more from you, but we're not giving you more. And we've had that challenge before, right? We've all been in that situation where you're not getting incremental budget, but you need to start driving higher cost efficiency and drive more leads for our business because we need them now, but we can't supplement any more budget for that. So how do you do that? How do you look at that without incremental budget, without changing the media plan for new partners? How do you optimize the plan for that? Great question. I'm glad I asked it. So one of the big things I'll mention, and I'll repeat again, I am a media supervisor at TBC. I work from a digital background. I'm a paid search and paid social guy. And I'm a cord cutter to boot, a millennial, all that jazz. Why on earth am I promoting linear TV to you today? Is there some deal I have on the side with some partner here? I promise there's not. But what is interesting to me, and what I've been trying to learn, and one of the reasons I'm glad I'm here, is you need a holistic view of media. You can't have a one-track mind, you can't have a one-channel view, because every channel impacts each other. And actually what we found, especially in the case of this client, it's not about choosing one platform for one user or saying it depends on what user you want. It's actually about using all the channels in moderation and pulling at those levers equally. Now, what we did with linear TV in particular was where we decided to optimize the media buy. TV is used for, among other things, for branding as well as recruitment, as well as recruiting the people that need to be serviced. Great, but the problem is, are we targeting the right shows? Are we targeting the right people at the right time? We took a step back, and in this case, we used a partner called TV Square for analytics and attribution technology. We actually use it across several clients, although we are technologically agnostic. And we found some interesting results. Yes, some things were confirmations, and it's always good to get those, but we actually discovered different places where our audience might be. Who would have thought that the average target demographic of a 45-year-old female was actually watching golf? It was something that we didn't think of before, and the data told us that. So it wasn't just about doing the same old routine and thinking the same old way. It was about refining and retooling the media buy, looking at the audience, looking at the analytics, taking that back, and actually saying to ourselves, okay, maybe it's not who we think our audience is. And if you think it was a challenge for us to think that, imagine what it was like convincing a brand that was, I'm gonna use trusted instead of established, a trusted brand, and telling them, your audience is not where you think they are. And it was very interesting. They were kind of in disbelief of us. They didn't think that was true. We changed the network buys, we changed it over for cable, and the results were fascinating. We did claim a couple of things to them. We said, you're gonna get a new audience, a larger audience, a refreshed audience, and we're gonna hit it on Facebook from all different ways. And as a result, you're going to see lead volume increase, especially on social platforms, but also on the programmatic media we're buying as well. They didn't believe us. They thought we should stick with the tried and true channels, and then maybe we could test into them at another time if we wanted to do things like golf and Dr. Phil. Well, that was fine, but we were told to retool the media budget and retool the media buy, and we did it. We challenged it, we test and learned, but in a little bit bigger of a way. And I have to say, one of the big things that the clients didn't believe us on was, you have to have consistent messaging across channels. And I know we're supposed to customize for each channel, but they didn't believe that the same messaging even belonged on different channels. They thought the users were completely different. And we challenged that notion. We said, the reason we're investing in linear while we're also investing in social is because people are second screening. I know that's an old term, but it's a true term. People are second screening while they're watching TV. You gotta have different types of messaging for different channels, but have a clear, consistent voice throughout them. I can't show them to you today, but it was interesting to show them a different type of voice depending on what type of channel they're on, with a slightly different message across it. And what was interesting was we promised no changes across our programmatic media, no optimization on social. All we're doing is optimizing the linear TV buy, because we want to prove to you that just by adjusting our buys, keeping the same creative in market, we're going to actually see a higher lift in performance and leads, and you're going to get the cost efficiencies you were asking for, all while maintaining the same budget. Well, did it work? It was a winning combination. Look at that. I said it, and it's on the slide, so you know it has to be true. But it was interesting, because it was a media-optimized approach. We didn't just say, keep the same old song and dance. We targeted different shows. We targeted different networks. We really looked at the data to inform our decision-making, and it was kind of cool, because we actually did see a lift. I kept remembering, I was talking about it, I kept looking at the Facebook platform saying, how are we seeing more leads? Where are they all coming from? And it was because we had redid our media buy. We had retooled that investment. That's pretty a good thing to do. And that clear, consistent messaging, one thing I should call out about that, it is about customizing for different channels. We said, great, brand yourself, have your brand share a voice, talk about the value of your brand on TV, but when it gets down to social and people are looking to take action, make sure you're informing them. Don't just talk about the value of the brand, but let's approach it like a sequential messaging with second screening and talk about the value of the job. You want people to work there? Tell us about the benefits and repeat and reinforce the value of the brands. That's how you keep the voice across channels and customize for the different products and the different channels that you're talking to. And it was interesting. We did end up capturing leads in a cost-effective manner. Now you may ask yourself, okay, great, I get it. You were second screening, looking around, and you're showing up on the right networks. Seems pretty simple. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. And that's something we have to keep in mind too. It's great to do something sexy and attractive. I'm a fan of it. I love everything that's fresh and new. But it's important to look at what works and what's working now and make sure you're doing it in the most cost-effective manner because you know it's going to work for you in the long run. And that's what it's about, being realistic and simplistic. That works for me, and it worked here in this case. As you can see, the results were a little bit staggering. Our clients were actually jarred at how well we did, not just on TV itself, but if you look at the percentages a little bit closely, I know it's a little bit of a clutter with the amount of percentages across the different channels. The numbers are actually higher in terms of lead volume across social and programmatic, and the cost-effective efficiencies that were gained are also higher across programmatic and social. And again, we didn't change anything on the social or programmatic platforms while we were running this test, because we really wanted to prove out, is it linear TV that's having an impact, or is it something else? And this is year on year, so we accounted for seasonality, so we can say with confidence, this was definitely a linear TV buy that has been done differently. It's not just about maximizing your reach, but I think someone said it really well earlier, it's about targeted reach, effective reach. You can't just keep investing in linear the same old way, but you can use linear effectively if you do it cost effectively. And I think, even if I'm early, I'm gonna stop there. Thank you.
That was awesome, thank you. Do you have any questions for Jared? I actually do something because as I said, even in the open, about everyone still linear is, kind of the lion's share, and you talked about that, and you then said you had to be more efficient about it and figure out, all right, what channels are working, what aren't. So for those who have these channels they're using on linear and it's the same old thing, like what do they need to do? Like you found all this data and you found all these other opportunities, but how did that happen? Like what were the stages for that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. As I said, I'm a paid social buyer. I'm still learning about that area, but what was interesting to me was we looked at the data that we got from TV Squared and we analyzed the audiences that were indexing higher. And as a result, we took that from us and said, let's invest in these shows because we're showing they're not just going to these networks that you think, but they're also looking at these interests and hobbies as well. And as a result, we're recommending to look into those audiences on those networks and on those TV shows.
So did you reduce your budget or did you keep it the same?
We didn't end up reducing our budget, but we did invest heavier on the right networks at the right time. And that's how I would approach it. It's not always about reducing budget, but it's just about investing it a little bit more carefully.
And then when you go to social, is that more considered supplemental, or is it really still a full part of the media mix?
It's still a full part of the media mix. In fact, our clients always tell us if we didn't have Meta, we wouldn't be having lead generation for our clients and for our franchisees. So it's still a big factor. Tried and old and true, but it still works.
All right. Well, Jared, thank you so much. I don't think okay, everyone.